And now for more on the layoffs at SIA, let's speak to Shukor Yusof, and he's a founder of Endau Analytics. Shukor, nobody likes these job cuts, but how necessary are they, though?
Well, it's absolutely critical, Glenda, for SIA to preserve its cash and to preserve the whole company. So the sacrifices, unfortunately, have to come at a time when the market is very bleak, the outlook is not so good. In fact, it's very dire. And so they've had to take this very critical decision to ensure that when SIA come out of COVID-19, they will be a leaner and more agile company with fewer staff and fewer aircraft. So this is absolutely critical.
Shukor, it's a dire outlook indeed, with predictions that we won't see travel go back to pre-COVID levels until the year 2024 at least. So can we expect further cuts?
I suspect so. I think the outlook is, according to IATA, the industry is going to lose $84 billion this year. And with many of the aircraft in the SIA's fleet still grounded, they're operating just about 8% of the capacity. So about 92% are still grounded. So there won't be many staff, many employees that are required right now. And so we're looking at the next 12 months at least in very difficult circumstances. And so there will probably be a necessity to relook again the staff requirements of SIA, as are other airlines in the world looking at this. So SIA is not unique. The whole industry has been blighted by this. And one of the ways to maneuver carefully out of this pandemic is to look at the number of employees in the company and whether this can be reduced in order for the airline to, work its way out of it into a healthier and a better condition.
All right, I want to pick up on that, into a healthier and better condition. So the layoff today, and you expect more layoffs in the future. How will these layoffs actually impact SIA's recovery going forward, though?
Well, number one, SIA has had very strong financial support in the last few months from the government, from Temasek. And so that will allow it to withstand the difficulties in the next few months, even in the next few years, indeed. But at the same time, having the right number of fleet, and I suspect they will have to review the number of aircraft. They have slightly over 130 wide-body aircraft in the fleet right now. They have about just slightly over 21,000 staff in SIA, in Scoot, and in SilkAir. So these have to be reviewed carefully. So a downsizing of it is absolutely necessary in order for SIA to work its way through, conserve its cash, and also at the same time to ensure that they do not need any more than staff than are required. So this is one very critical way for it to get out of this and emerge stronger in 2, 3, 4 years from now. But then again, there's no guarantee that if you cut stuff that it's going to be hunky-dory when the things are recovering. So this is a very, very unique, very unparalleled situation that we are in. So this is something that has to be done.
Shukor, we're still very much in the thick of this pandemic. Very few people thinking about travel at all. And SIA says that it's expecting to operate less than 50% of its normal capacity right up until the end of March next year. Now we're talking about these travel bubbles, the negotiations for that. But how quickly can that actually happen in the coming months in order to support SIA's recovery?
As we have seen, the travel bubbles have been discussed very much between Singapore and countries like China, Australia, and New Zealand. But the reality is very little has come out of it, very little positive thing. The actual people moving from one country to another has not been what has been expected of them. One, because there has been a rising infection of COVID, and which has made many governments to carefully reassess again, to recalibrate whether they should reopen the borders and whether the passengers from other countries should be allowed into Changi. But all that being said, I think Singapore has done incredibly well to relook at Changi, to reopen, to allow transit passengers, and to move ahead and talk more with other governments and other countries in order to facilitate the number of people transiting through Singapore, and in fact, where it's safe, to allow foreigners to come into the country.
Yeah, but Singapore is very dependent on global travel because SIA mentioned one key point in its statement that it does not have a domestic market. You know, unlike big countries like China, as we know, is already reporting growth in its domestic travel. Is this necessarily a weak link in its global network, though?
On the contrary, Glenda, I think if you look at how Singapore has been able to successfully create one of the largest refineries in the world, when Singapore has no oil to speak of, I think not having a domestic market should be used as an advantage in this position. And SIA has done that incredibly well. It has it operates as a sixth freedom airline, where it uses Singapore as a major hub, using passengers from all over the world to come to Singapore and connecting onwards to the rest of the world. So that's being done excellently. And so this has to continue, but at the same time, it has to review the optimum number of aircraft that it needs in the future when things recover, as well as use the absence of a domestic market shouldn't be a disadvantage at all. It is physically what it is, but at the same time, I think SIA has proven that it has managed to overcome that difficulty, that handicap, if you like, and so it can be done again. I think the way to do it is to have a very good imagination and to really think out of the box, and see how the world changes once the recovery comes.
Shukor, thank you very much for helping us to analyse the outlook for SIA's recovery. That was Shukor Yusof, the founder of Endau Analytics.